Okay, I think I just fixed the sound problem after talking to myself for about the past 50 minutes. No sound. Um, is there sound now? I had to change my mic. I'm switching over some technology. The sound's supposed to be coming through the phone. Now I have sound. Thank you so much. I love you and appreciate you so much for helping me navigate these live stream streets. So I said a lot while the comments were closed and I couldn't see y'all say, hey, no sound. Um, Again, quick intro for those of you who do not know me, never heard of me before. I'm Char, the founder of Law for Love, the most special place in the legal system in Atlanta. And after 14 years of navigating families through broken marriages and divorce and a really broken legal system with very broken lawyers, I decided that the least that I can do is bring my message of hope, love, and encouragement to families who are struggling in conflict and maybe contemplating divorce. The reality is that a lot of people run to the legal system because something's wrong and they want to make it right. And there is this perception that the system is going to do a better job at it than you can. And I'm here to tell you that it can't. There are so many limits on what a judge can do, what the courts can do for you. I mean, even if you're married to someone who's done something super horrible and you want to make them pay for it, there's only so far the legal system can even go in doing that. And family law really isn't designed to punish anyone. So for me and other lawyers like myself who see the limits of the system, who watch families go in and out of court, not because of legal problems on the civil side of the law, but because of legal problems in their relationship contracts. I'm here to talk about relationship contracts, and I'm here to empower you with practical ways you can begin shifting the atmosphere in your home so that you can heal and your family can enjoy the healing that flows from you and the power that you learn from these things. I'm a nerdy Bible lady. I love the Bible and I love how much the Bible is law. It is the law of creation. And a lot of times, law gets a bad rap. People think of law as what you can't do, but law is more like mathematics. When you say 2 plus 2 equals 4, that is actually a statement of law. 2 plus 2 is 4. Period. That is the law of 2 plus 2. That is the law of addition. Certain things are absolute because they are. These are what we call principles. These are things that we call foundations. These are things that we can live and govern our lives by because law creates a certainty that if this, then that. That is what law is. And so, again, my approach is intersecting the spiritual law as gleaned from the Bible with the law of relationships, how people are and how we interact with one another, so that we can be more informed about how we're doing life. So I want to jump into burnout because burnout is a big, big problem that we see a lot of in divorcing families. And these are 3 tips to overcome relationship burnout. If I had to if I had to put a percentage on the number of marriages that resulted in divorce because of burnout, in the case where a wife is filing a divorce, 80% of the time it's because she's burned out. And another pattern that I've observed is a lot of burnout takes place in codependent relationships. And so although I'm not a clinician in mental health, I'm an observer of life. And I'm here to share with you what I've seen from life and what I've considered as I observe life and as I've learned from people and their situations. So did I skip a page? No. Step number one is that you need to review your deal. Every relationship you have is a contract. Every relationship, even the relationship you have with yourself, it involves a series of agreements, contracts, and contracts create the power of law, the operation of law in your life based on what you agree to. And so, the first thing or the first tip, if you are experiencing burnout, if you're feeling exhausted in your relationship, you want to review your deal. What do we do in life, right? If you make a major purchase and there's supposed to be a warranty for 2 years, and at the time you purchase that item, there's this whole stack of papers. You didn't take time to read it, but your item begins to malfunction. The first thing you do when something goes wrong is that you go and you dig up the papers, right? Or if you, some people have a drawer where they stick the papers. Some people keep their papers in files. Some of our more modern folks take pictures and save them on drives, but you are going to go look for the purchase documents. Why? Because the purchase documents are going to have terms in there that are going to tell you whether or not, is this covered by a warranty? Who do I contact? Do I have to pay for any part of it? Do they cover parts? Do they cover service? You go and review your deal when something goes wrong. If something goes wrong and you're a renter in a home, something goes wrong and there's a disagreement between you and your landlord, you're pulling up the lease to see who's responsible for what in this lease. If you're having a fight with your homeowner's insurance about whether or not they're supposed to pay for the damage that happened to your house when the tree got knocked down by the storm, you're digging up your policy and you're looking at, are they responsible for the tree from the hurricane, right? It's the same exact principle in your relationship contracts. You need to take a look at your deal, because what a relationship contract is, it is an implied contract. Implied contracts are created under the law based on what we call the course of conduct. Course of conduct is just another word for behavior. In what ways have you been behaving with one another that created an understanding or agreement? The understanding is the agreement. And if you're watching this video, you've probably already been having this conversation with yourself, like, okay, what am I doing for them? And what are they doing for me? And then looking at, how are the benefits flowing? What am I benefiting from this relationship? What are they benefiting from this relationship? You've probably already kind of been thinking this way. What I'm doing here is just really providing you with a more structured and systematic way of looking at it, because a lot of times, and we'll get into it a little later in the presentation, we take on feelings that we shouldn't take on when we're thinking about whether or not we're benefiting from a relationship. The type of people who typically burn out in a relationship are people who feel guilty for not doing certain things. They feel bad for not being nice people. And so if you're having this conversation with yourself, the first thing I want to tell you is that you're supposed to. You're in conflict, you're feeling burned out, you're feeling exhausted. All you're doing here is reviewing the deal. Attaching guilt or shame to the fact that you're actually asking yourself this question, that's just going to make you more tired. Please don't do that. You have a right to review your deal and ask yourself, how am I benefiting from this deal? Because what we're doing in a contract analysis, we're asking, is this relationship mutually beneficial? Like, so in relationship, it's not always going to be 50-50, but it should ebb and flow where it's not like, it's not like 70-30, right? It's not like 90-10. There are seasons of life that come where maybe you're having to show up and give more and the other person is benefiting more because life be lifing. And that's just for a season if your relationship is like this. But over the course of time, the mutual benefits, it should go a little bit back and forth to where, again, not always 50-50, but somewhere between 60-40 between the two of you over time, and it going back and forth in a way that you're both benefiting during different seasons and in a similar degree. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So that's what I mean when I say mutually beneficial. I don't mean 50-50. 50-50 is extremely hard to quantify in the world of relationships, but if it's about even, and chances are, if you're feeling burned out, if you're wondering how to escape relationship exhaustion, it may not be mutually beneficial. And there are a few reasons why. You also want to ask yourself, when you are looking at your deal, you're reviewing your deal, where are you coming up short? A lot of times when people are experiencing burnout in their relationship, they feel burnout, they feel exhausted, but they're not always able to articulate what it is that they don't have, or what it is that they're not getting from the relationship. So one of the most important things for you to do when you're reviewing your deal, and you're realizing that maybe there's not an even or similar benefit in your relationship, articulate what's missing. What is it that you don't have? What a lot of people do in burnout is they reach a point of frustration and rage where they pop off, and nobody really understands what it is that they're needing, and they don't even know a lot of times how to articulate what it is that they're needing, because they've been so busy taking care of everybody else. So when you're looking at your deal, come up with 3 things and define what's missing for you, because I want to encourage you to do something about that. Step number 2, get real with you. So what a lot of people do when they're looking to try to figure out, how can I get along better in my relationship? Most people are looking for, how can the other person change to make me feel better? And this is why for me and for my marriage counseling did not work. Couples therapy did not work. And marriage, when we had couples coaching, it worked to a certain degree. And the reason why was because my husband and I were both waiting for each other to change before we were each willing to feel safe in our relationship. And until I decided that I was not going to wait for him to change anymore, and I decided I was going to live and love life with or without him, that's when things radically began to change with me, within me, and our marriage improved as a result of my no longer just waiting for him to make me happy. So, step number 2 is about you getting real with you. Because if you're coming up short in the deal, now you need to ask yourself why, and you need to be honest with yourself about that. And this is where I want to share this rule of law with you. One cannot expect you to love them, or other words, tell them the truth. I'm sorry, there is no love where there's lies. Love and lie, it's just it. These are contradictory concepts. To love you is to tell you the truth. To love me is to tell me the truth. So someone else cannot expect you to be loving to them if you're not being loving to you, and that is telling you the truth. Love begins with truth. And the foundation for this law or principle, right, that I'm extracting from the scriptures can be found in Proverbs 29:12. Now, here's how Proverbs 29:12, it says, if a ruler hearkens to lies, all his servants are wicked. Now, at face value, it looks like it's talking about a king and all of the people that serve the king being the wicked people. But I want to show you how this is actually talking about your relationship with you and with lies and with truth. Here's the key. The ruler is you. In this proverb, the ruler is you. How do we know that? Well, in the beginning, you were created human in the image of your creator, the king of heaven and earth, right? And when you were made, You, as human, man was made and given an assignment: be fruitful and multiply, subdue the earth, and take dominion over it, rule over all of creation. So, by created intent, right? By the manufacturer's default, the design for your life is for you to rule. You are created in the image of a creator to be a ruler. The ruler in the proverb is talking about you. Hearken. The word hearken in this proverb, it means to listen, consider, and agree. Now, the reason why this is important, because everything about your thoughts, what you reject or what you accept, is about the formation of contracts. When you formulate a belief, you have formed an agreement with a thought, with an idea. So all beliefs are contracts. And here, when the ruler or you are listening and considering and agreeing, you are forming contracts with concepts. And I think I had a note in here that the thoughts are your dominion. Your kingdom is the world of your thoughts. The scriptures, when they're talking about the heart, they're not talking about the beating organ in your chest that we call a heart. The heart is referring to the world of your thoughts, your intentions, your decisions, your emotions, your choices, your consciousness, your thought world. And you are designed to be the ruler over the world of your thoughts. So that was the foundation I wanted to lay before I jump into these keys. The next key is servants. In the scripture, the servant is your decisions, your choices. So the reason for this power, you've been given a divine right to make choices. So powerful, so important, so specifically designed to your function as a ruler created in the image of the creator, that no one else has the power to take your choices away from you. The only time you don't have a choice is when you give it away. You have a divine right to choose that is so powerful that your creator himself does not override your choice, period. Why? Because he made you to be like him, to rule, to make choices. And those choices are your servants. They are to serve you in your world where you exercise authority over your thoughts and over the physical earth. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? So, in other words, we'll take all these keys of what this proverb is saying, and I'm writing it this way for the full understanding. For step number 2, if you agree with lies, all your choices, which are formed from the lies, are wicked. This is the rule of law that is the beginning of you breaking out of deals that are not serving you. Because if a deal is not serving you, then that means that if you're experiencing burnout, by definition, there is something operating in this relationship, in the reason why you're accepting the relationship the way that it is, and it's robbing you of enjoyment. And so we know that a lie has to be present wherever you're robbed of enjoyment, because lies take away joy, they rob you of your peace, and they destroy harmony in your relationships. That's the nature of a lie. And any agreement that you have with a lie is a wicked agreement. So this is the rule of law for step number 2. And I also want to share with you that this principle is so powerful that it does even apply in evidentiary rules of civil law. In criminal law, it's called the doctrine of the fruit of a poisonous tree. This is a rule of evidence that says that, okay, if the police broke the law by the way that they got evidence to use against you, if the law was broken to get the evidence, everything that evidence leads to is poisonous. It's no good. So the initial illegality or unlawfulness or lie creates fruit that cannot be relied on. That's the doctrine of the fruit of a poisonous tree. We should be thinking the same way when it comes to any beliefs that we have, any agreements that we have in our belief system that are lies, because they're going to perpetuate poisonous fruit. They're going to produce poisonous fruit in our lives. Does that make sense? So people who are experiencing burnout typically have a set of lies that look like this. And this is not an exhaustive list. These are just like the type of things that people who are burning out in relationships, they typically believe or they think that this other person needs them or that they need the other person. People who tend to experience burnout in relationship, they also have a belief system where they don't want to be selfish. They don't want to appear to be selfish. Selfish is bad, bad, bad. And so they do a lot of self-sacrifice things so that they're not being selfish or what they perceive as being selfish. They don't want to be mean because people who experience burnout tend to have a very high value system on being kind or nice to other people. And side note, I don't know where the word nice appears as a character trait or value in the scriptures. Anybody who can show nice to me in the scriptures, I'd love to have a conversation and explore the use of the word nice, because nice, in terms of how we've been programmed and conditioned in our culture, it it's almost setting you up to lie to yourself and cheat yourself for the sake of another relationship. So that's just kind of my little 2 cents on the word nice. But I've never done an exhaustive search of it. I just can't think of any scriptural references to being nice and how being nice is a spiritual thing. So if you want to challenge me on that, I'd love to have a conversation about it. I don't want to make them upset. And hey, brother Eric, welcome in, blessings. Hey, if you know where the Bible talks about nice, brother Eric, because I know you don't have a problem with confronting, but I'm just challenging that. I don't know where the Bible encourages a character trait of niceness. Niceness is, a lot of people burn out because they want to be nice, and I don't even know where that condition comes from in our culture. And let's see. um I don't want to hurt them, or I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want the kids to suffer. This is a really, really, y'all, when I talk about the phenomenon of people being together 20, 30 years and beyond, and things have not been okay for a very long time, almost 99% of the time, it was for the kids, for the sake of the kids. And people burn out wanting to protect their children. There's also this lie, they won't let me. And we're going to deal with all of this later on. Now, how have these thoughts been serving you or robbing you? So remember, the evidence that a lie is in operation in your life is that you're being robbed of peace, joy, and fulfillment and harmony. Like if you're not experiencing peace, joy, fulfillment, and harmony in your relationship, somewhere there is a lie. That when we become lie detectors and start searching out the lies that are operating in our lives and our agreements with ourselves, our agreements with others, we can begin to take back territory that lies have stolen from us, because that's the nature of a lie. It steals. So I appreciate you, brother. So with the question about these thoughts and whether or not they're helping you or whether or not they're serving you, the follow-up question, and this is one of the hardest questions for men and women who I have met, who are challenged with feeling burned out and exhausted in their relationship. They have a very hard time answering this second question. What value do you possess when you are not giving yourself away to others? Are you able to articulate your value without it being attached to something you're giving? That one right there, I want to absolutely offend you if you are burned out, if you are tired, if you are exhausted, if you feel like you're dying so that someone else can thrive and be happy. I want you to lose sleep over answering that question until you come up with an answer. That's my challenge to you. And step number 3, it's time to resolve your conflict and claim peace. Now, the funny thing about peace is that a lot of people assume that peace begins between you and someone else, but peace begins with you. You have to first have peace within you to create an atmosphere that allows you to have peace with other people. Peace is actually an atmosphere. It is an atmosphere of harm. I mean, not harm, of harmony. It's an atmosphere of harmony with oneself and with others. And a lot of times, again, because we value other people over ourselves, I'm talking to folks who burn out. If you're burned out, if you're exhausted, what you often do is you value everyone else above yourself. And peace begins with valuing yourself and claiming peace for yourself first. So let's talk about that a little bit from a legal perspective. Rule of law: peace cannot coexist with conflict. I got my little K thrown up in there off to the side. That's a whole typo. So the foundation is Proverbs 28:15. Now, I know that in men's Bible studies and in marriage fellowship that supports men, this is a very, very popular scripture, but I'm about to remix it for you to give you some additional perspective. It does mean what it says in an obvious sense in terms of who it's talking about, but I want to broaden your perspective about this. It's better to dwell in the corner of a housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house. So this picture is of this lady who ready to fight inside of the house. And the instruction is to her husband who only wants peace. You know, I say this to wives all the time. Your man, he just wants peace. He wants to be at peace with you. He wants the house to be at peace. He does not want disruption of his peace, especially after being out here in these streets having to deal with whatever's out there. When he comes home, he wants peace. This is what I counsel wives all the time. So the picture here is so obvious that it's talking about what a woman who's ready and geared up to fight, she is going to rob the house of peace. And this man would be better off sleeping outside in the middle of a hurricane than being inside the house of even a big house with a woman who will not allow him to have peace because all she wants to do is fight. And this is a very traditional and conventional way of explaining this proverb. But what is very important about this proverb that a lot of us overlook is that the brawling woman, from a proverb and a spiritual law perspective, also represents a person who is with has conflict within themselves. This proverb is not just about the female gender. This proverb is about the person in conflict. Have you ever had a loved one who, whatever they have going on inside their head, they constantly bring chaos wherever they go, male or female? Like they can't dwell in peace with anybody. They start fights with everybody. Like they're constantly looking for reasons to argue. Is that only women? Or do you not know men who are the exact same way? The reason why certain people conflict goes everywhere that they go is because they are in conflict with themselves. They are not in peace with themselves. The brawling woman being the person in conflict, wherever they go, there is no peace because they bring the conflict. Conflict is like, it's like a it's like a change in atmosphere. When a person who is in conflict with themselves, they enter into a room, they immediately like disturb the whole atmosphere of the room. Have you ever been around a person who commands peace that even when they show up in a chaotic situation, it's like they like bring the peace? It's almost like the picture of Yahusha. He's in the bottom of the boat sleeping in the middle of a storm. The disciples freaking out, thinking they're about to die. Wake him up out of his sleep. And what's so hilarious is that the scriptures actually made sure to include the detail that Yahushua was on a pillow. He was getting the good sleep in the middle of a storm. What did he do? He got irritated with the disciples that they couldn't figure out what their authority was, got up and commanded the storm to be at peace. He commanded peace. What most of us don't understand and realize is that peace is actually a form of weaponry. A person who has mastered the ability to command peace, when they walk into a chaotic situation, they have the power to just completely change and shift the atmosphere because they command peace. They will not let their peace go. Peace is a weapon. So the purpose of me sharing this law, this rule of law, the law of relationships, is that yes, this proverb is talking about how women who want to fight their husband all the time and who don't want to submit can rob your house of peace. But I hope that you see the broader application here that a person who is in conflict with themselves, they bring conflict in the atmosphere wherever they go. So you might be asking me, okay, so all right, Char, I get it. This is how you get peace, by resolving your own conflict. So how do I do that? Well, I'm just going to show you a real practical way that you can begin dealing with some of the lies that may have been contributing to your relationship exhaustion and why you're feeling burned out in your relationship. And if you decide to, number one, break the agreement with the lie, call it a lie. When you recognize that something that you believe is not true, renounce it. When we realize that we have a bad deal in life, picture yourself taking a sheet of paper and tearing it up. In fact, I would even encourage you that if you identify one of these lies, or maybe even another lie that's operating in your consciousness, in the way that you think, in the way that you believe, write the lie down on a sheet of paper and go through the act of ripping the paper as a way to illustrate that you are no longer agreeing with this lie. Again, where most relationship work is not happening, you're not first dealing with the lie that's operating inside of you, that's creating conflict with you. You are made from the Creator, who is the Spirit of truth. You are made in His image to be loved by Him, and love is harmonized with truth. So wherever you believe a lie, wherever a lie is operating in your consciousness, in your belief system, in your agreements, in your contracts, you are going to be in conflict with yourself and not abiding in the fullness of your intended purpose. Does that make sense? So here's the first lie. They need me. I need them. Need? No. You need air, oxygen to breathe. You need food to nourish your body. You need clothes to protect your body from the elements. You need shelter to protect yourself from the elements. You need those things. But to define your needs by a relationship is a lie. It's a lie. Humans are created to be interdependent. We're created to need each other. Like, your life does not depend on whether or not someone else loves you. You're not going to just cease to exist if this person is not in your life. It just doesn't work like that. And a lot of people, unfortunately, live this way, believing they need and may not even really think so on a conscious level. So if anything else, if this is something that operates in your subconscious mind, something that you haven't really thought about or you never really articulated, do you believe that you need this relationship? Do you believe that this person will cease to exist without you, that you have to be in their life because they need you? Now, I'm not talking about a parent-child relationship because children for a season are totally dependent on their parents. And even if you're dealing with a situation where someone may be physically limited and yes, needs caregiving, I'm not talking about that situation either. I'm talking about the day in, day out. You're able to take care of yourself. I'm able to take care of myself. Who needs who? We need each other. So that's the truth. You make a new contract with the truth. Going back to when you first analyze your deal, is this a mutually beneficial relationship? This is supposed to be mutually beneficial because we are supposed to be interdependent, not codependent. Codependent, by definition, means that both of you rely on one another for your very existence. One of you needs to be a giver and one of you needs to be a taker, and you just need each other and you keep this thing going. Mm-mm. That's not how we were created. That's not the design. Let's look at lie number 2. I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to be selfish. This one is really, really big. And I would say, especially for like older children, if you were the only child, you had to look out for younger siblings, kind of thing. It's not uncommon to have that kind of sense of duty over other people imposed on you from a young child when it came to looking out for brothers and sisters. So I know that a lot of people struggle with this one as well. But here's the truth. The truth is, caring for yourself is your responsibility. And caring for yourself should never be confused with being selfish. When someone tells me they're feeling burned out, they're feeling exhausted by a relationship, 9 times out of 10, that person is neglecting an area of their own mental health, their own physical well-being, and their own emotional care. 9 out of 10 times, when I experience a person who is feeling burned out in a relationship, they are neglecting their spirit, their mind and emotions, or their health, their physical body. So why is taking care of your mental health selfish? And why is taking care of your spiritual well-being selfish? And why is taking care of your diet and exercise and your nutrition selfish? I'm just asking for a friend. And I do have to go in on people who are the givers, the ones who do burn out. I hate to have to go in on you like this, but I work with many others just like you because I used to be in the same exact boat. And once I began to understand these principles, these truths, it completely changed my life. And so, yes, that's why I go hard when it comes to this stuff, because you dying from neglect does not benefit anyone but the devil, who's the father of lies. It infuriates me. So, um, I don't want to be mean. This is another one. This is a close cousin of the last lie. Again, because a lot of us have been conditioned to be nice, to play fair, right? So requiring someone else to take care of themselves, that's not mean. That is not mean. Remember, we're interdependent. So sometimes when you find yourself being a giver in a relationship with a taker, you have to learn how to allow the necessary pressure for a taker to figure it out. That is not mean. That's actually being loving. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to carry a person for so long that they lose the use of their own legs. You've been walking around with this person on your back for the past 20 years, doing everything for them that they could have done for themselves. And when you finally decide to put them down on their own 2 feet, they collapse because their legs no longer have strength. They call that atrophy in science. Loss from not being used. If you want to be loving to your taker, because you are a giver and it is beginning to exhaust you because you're giving too much, you need to politely create that room and that necessary pressure for them to step into what they're able to do for themselves. That is their responsibility. Just like taking care of your own mental, spiritual, and physical health is your responsibility, You don't take on somebody else's responsibility for stuff they can do for themselves. And that's part of why we burn out, trying to be nice. And it's not mean to require somebody else to take care of themselves. Let's see the next one. I don't want to make them upset or angry or uncomfortable. A lot of people are taking L's in their relationships and beginning to feel burned out because they worried about how somebody else feels. They don't want somebody else to feel bad. So they they sacrifice themselves so somebody else doesn't feel bad. But here's the truth. Here is the truth. If you are providing for someone else's comfort, by being dishonest with yourself, this is a wicked choice. And I'm able to say that with the authority of the Proverb 29 that said, if you have an agreement with a lie, then your decisions that flow from that lie are wicked. So it is a wicked choice to lie to yourself, thinking that you're going to keep someone else from feeling upset. Because ultimately, the more you lie to yourself, you're going to cause them discomfort when you burn out, pop off, or run away from the relationship. Those are the only paths left when you are already feeling exhausted, you're already feeling burned out. The only path left, if you don't turn and change course and you don't get on the path where you're telling the truth and you taking care of yourself first, there's going to be a pop off. There's going to be burnout, pop off, and running away. That it maybe I don't know of any other outcome. This is what I've observed. And the running away for a lot of people has been divorce, because you don't want to make somebody feel uncomfortable. But ultimately, you're not designed to just keep lying to yourself without any consequence. And this is where explosive rage comes from. This is where people start throwing stuff. This is where people start getting violent. This is where people start cussing out and talking real ugly. It's because they've been lying to themselves and they're frustrated. And that frustration comes from the fact that you don't have peace because you keep lying to yourself. I hope that makes sense. And I hope you're seeing the connection here. It's easier to just do it this way than to fight. This is another big lie that I observe very easily, because I also share the tendency of being a conflict avoider. Some people like to stand and fight, just fight. Other people like, look, I just rather not fight. I'd rather not talk than to fight. And so it may be easier to just keep taking on the load of someone else's stuff because you don't want to fight them. But the truth really is that rather than fighting them, you're really in conflict with yourself. And you cannot claim peace because you are not willing to confront the issue. You can only avoid issues for so long before they have to be dealt with. I mean, that's just the truth. The other side of this, though, and a very beautiful revelation that I wish I learned as a younger woman, conflict is actually an invitation to increased intimacy. When two people work through conflict and resolve and tackle the issue together, they are actually closer. So the thing you want is intimacy, but the thing you're avoiding is conflict. But conflict is a pathway to deeper intimacy. When y'all work it out together respectfully and lovingly, it actually increases intimacy. I wish someone had put me on that game as a young woman. Please stop avoiding conflict. You get less of the intimacy you really want and more of the conflict that you don't want. I don't want to hurt them. Another very common lie. Givers, people who tend to burn out, tell themselves. But sacrificing yourself for the sake of another person is ultimately going to hurt them because it's going to lead to the pop off, the burnout, the pop off, or the running away. It's going to happen. And when that happens, you're going to hurt that person. So were you really saving them from being hurt by sacrificing yourself for them? I'm just asking you to make it make sense. Help me figure out how that math is mathing. Sacrificing yourself is not the path to a healthy relationship or someone else's happiness. It's just not. You are going to hurt them. This one, the big, biggie, biggie, biggie in family law. I don't want to hurt the kids. And what a lot of people really don't consider is that the kids are already suffering by having modeled for them a form of relationship that's not true, and being taught a form of living either as a giver or as a taker, which is going to lead to conflict in their relationships and lack of intimacy in their future relationships. So they're being hurt by not seeing truth and love modeled out for them. And a lot of times when I've seen parents make the decision to finally be like, I can't do this anymore, even though I know it's going to hurt the kids, most parents who make this decision do not make the decision until there's like a threat to their health, when they say, I can't do this anymore, not even for the sake of the kids. And that's unfortunate, because you can begin telling you the truth, getting you some peace, and living your best life with or without this other person's participation in your happiness. And the overflow from your joy and your healing can begin to impact and completely change your house. You have that power. And that's ultimately what I'm hoping that you will begin to realize by seeing these lies and the truths and breaking agreement with lies, so that you can begin living in peace with yourself. They won't let me. Now, this is a big one. And anyone who's worked with me knows I will go in on you if you sit up here and tell me about the power you don't have. You always have power. You always have a right. You always have a choice. No one can take it from you, not even your creator. You are the ruler over your own choices. And only you can give that power away. Only you. Don't come telling me about all the power somebody else has. Don't come telling me about what somebody else won't let you do. Don't come telling me about what you can't do because of someone else. No, you always have a choice. And when you live with the fact that even though your choices might be hard choices, they're still yours. And that power, like Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. A lot of times we want to give our power away because we don't want the responsibility that comes with that power. But you have plenty of power, because that is the law. The Most High himself cannot violate your choice. He cannot do it. He forbade that domain from himself. That's how powerful your right to choose is. So the big takeaway today is to be kind to yourself. Those of you who are givers, maybe you're in a relationship with a taker, maybe you can't figure out a way out of this. I'm hoping that you would take these 3 tips as a starting point for you to have a staff meeting with yourself, for you to deal with some contracts that have not been serving you within your own belief system, and for you to start having a very honest and different conversation with yourself in truth, because the law is that the truth is what sets you free. The agreement with truth is what brings you into a place where you can secure peace inside of yourself and then share that peace with others. That's what we bring into other relationships. That's how we harmonize with others, by first harmonizing with myself, by telling me the truth. So I want to encourage you in your pursuit for healthy relationships to have that healthy relationship with yourself first. And with that, big hugs. And by the way, I just want to mention that for any other attorneys who might come across my content, if you are also the kind of attorney that hugs their client, I'd love to hear from you. We're a special breed, and we should be connecting with each other and making sure that we're taking care of each other and supporting each other, because lawyering ain't easy. With that, y'all, I love you. I look forward to connecting with you for another Bible teaching very soon.